is to begin. A thousand banners waving in the sky. Here comes our Lazio, the eagle starts to fly.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. Not the best night for us to talk, but anyway, as we said at the beginning, we were doing live every time after a Lazio match. I'm Vittorio Campanile. With me, he's back, and maybe that's why Lazio didn't win today. Alistair McKenzie. Hello, Alistair. How are you?
Don't blame me. Well, if you remember at the start of the season when I actually missed the show, we beat Milan 4-1, so maybe I should have sat tonight out as well.
The only time in the season we beat Milan, huh?
Yeah, not a coincidence. Not a coincidence. I don't know. Let's not get too superstitious about it.
No. I'm joking.
But
obviously.
yeah, you're right. I mean, it's starting to regret the decision to do a show after every match because it's quite hard to readjust sometimes after losing, especially in penalties. You know, we were saying just before coming on that it's been such a long time since we've had to actually watch a penalty shootout, let alone lose one, and it's a really horrible way to lose a game, really.
Yes, the thing is, Lazio play better than AC Milan. I think that's obvious. I didn't see the stats, but I think the ball possession was positive for Lazio, I think, more than AC Milan. But at the end of the match, if you consider the whole match, I believe Milan has had biggest chances than Lazio. And this tells you something, you know, that I don't want to say something didn't work correctly, but yeah, I thought Lazio started very, very well in the first 25 minutes, but then didn't get any more dangerous. I don't know, Alistair, do you agree with me?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Inzaghi would have been, the first 25 minutes particularly would have been absolutely delighted. I mean, we really had Milan where we wanted them, you know. I mean, pressing high up the pitch, the midfield were battling high up, and it was causing the Milan defence to make mistakes. You know, we were happy for them to keep the ball in defence, but they couldn't really find a way out. Again, creating a lot of chances, but also continuing the theme from recent matches in terms of creating a lot of chances and not finishing them, which is kind of another concern again tonight. But yeah, I think you're right. Over the two legs, Lazio were the better team. Definitely had the chances to have gone through into the final. And yeah, it's a bit frustrating when it gets to the point where it comes down to the kind of lottery of penalties to decide it. But I thought Inzaghi's game plan was good, and it's quite hard to criticise anything he did tonight, because Lazio played, I think, in a way that he would have been encouraged by, but it's just about those kind of small margins not really going our way during the 90 minutes at least.
Yeah, I think when Kessie went pretty much man on man on Milinkovic-Savic, Lazio started to struggle a little bit, because the physicality of Kessie put Milinkovic a little bit, created some problem to Milinkovic-Savic that usually uses his body to create more space and room, and didn't have it. And as well, Marusic. Lazio, I thought at a certain point Milan understood that Lazio were attacking only on the left side, because Marusic was so bad that they couldn't do nothing on the right side. So, Milan switched all on that side and made very difficult for Lazio to attack.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth mentioning as well, a lot of our attacks were going down the right-hand side in the first half. So I think Marusic was certainly a lot more attack-minded than he was defensively minded to begin with. But he didn't have a great game. I think you can recognise that by the fact that he was taken off for Lukaku with Lulic actually moving over onto the right hand side, which he's not very familiar with, or hasn't at least played a lot in this season, if at all. But yeah, I mean, it's a strange kind of game because I think Marisic, he wasn't great, but I wouldn't call him a disaster tonight. I wouldn't really call anyone a disaster. It's one of these matches where I think everyone did fine, but no one did brilliantly, and that's not the most cutting analysis you'll ever hear, but sometimes that's just how things are, and we just lacked the finishing touch to a lot of these chances, and quite often as well the finishing delivery, especially from the wide areas, Marisic on the right and Lukaku on the left, sometimes not getting the quality of ball, quality of service into the middle. And also I think Anderson, we expected a bit more from coming off the bench with against a tiring defence. And we didn't really get that tonight either.
I don't agree. I mean, Felipe Anderson did something. I was disappointed by Lukaku, who I thought, it's the perfect time for him to come in. Instead, he was not worse than Marusic, because for me it wasn't possible, but he didn't do nothing. I was expecting much more from him, especially because Calabria finished the second half and looked like he had a problem with one of his foot. So instead, he didn't struggle at all against Lukaku. So, as you were saying, all the team played decent, well, but no one above the average, I would say. Honestly, Leiva, I liked him really a lot today. I thought he was amazing. He was. I'm really sorry he missed the penalty, but apart from that, he was unbelievable. Especially, and it's cool to see him playing like that in front of Biglia, who again didn't do nothing special for me. But apart from Leiva, Immobile again didn't do that much. Luis Alberto started really, really well. Then after 25 minutes, I don't know if Milan understand how to stop him, or he, I don't know, turn off the lights, but didn't impress me as usual. So
I thought Stefan Radu had quite a good game as well. He made a really important intervention in the first half, I think it was. But you're right, I think Lucas was the best player on the pitch for us tonight.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is a shame that he's missed the penalty. It's also a shame that Felipe Luis is the guy who's missed the decisive penalty, because he's someone who's obviously improved so much, particularly in the last couple of months. And it was a big moment for him, and it's a bit unfortunate, I think, when it gets down to the sudden death penalties, and there are people having to step up and take these who clearly don't want to or haven't been chosen to in the first place. And as a defender, it's not going to be his strongest suit to step up and smash a penalty. And so I hope that doesn't have too much of an impact on his confidence in any way. I doubt it will, but of all people for it to happen to, I feel a bit bad that it's him and not someone with a bit more experience.
Yeah, and I was surprised that I didn't go and kick the penalty, and instead Ramos went. I don't know why. And again, I didn't like De Vrij today. I'm not saying he was awful, but man on man, he struggled tonight with Cutrone. But yeah, honestly, if it was a match of box, I would say that at the end of the regular time, the referee would have said that Lazio would have won at points. Unfortunately, you have to go to the penalties, and you know that everything can happen. I really believe Lazio missed the final part, when you have to close it and score. I got the impression sometimes Milinkovic was trying to do the freestyle trick, etc. As Luis Alberto, I thought we didn't shoot on target too often, even when we had the chances. And that's the thing, the problem of Lazio tonight, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we are guilty of overplaying it and, picking one pass too many, um, basically trying to walk the ball into the net instead of just taking a shot. And given the guys we've got in that starting lineup tonight and their ability to shoot from distance as well as from within the box, it's sometimes a bit annoying when you don't see people just have a bit more ambition and take it on. But Milinkovic-Savic, I think he definitely was. He's been a much more present force in an attacking sense in recent weeks, and that's good to see. And he was playing a lot more in that area of the pitch tonight. But yeah, just didn't really work for him. Going back to what you said about De Vrij, I think his game tonight was kind of a tale of two halves. I think in the first half, you're right, he was quite isolated on a few occasions, and he did seem to struggle. But in the second half, I think he actually improved quite a lot, and we saw him kind of making good interceptions and spraying passes around the pitch, and kind of back to his normal level. So I'm not going to get too worried about De Vrij and read into anything, considering his situation at the club. But
No, I wasn't suggesting that. I wasn't thinking that he stopped playing because he knows he's leaving. Simply that he struggled, and it reminds me a little bit last year when he has to mark the man, be the defender to follow that man, etc. He's been struggling a little bit. He played much better when he's the sweeper, when he has the two defenders near him marking the man, and he's when the situation is desperate or leading the defense. Today, a couple of times when he was one-on-one against Cutrone, he struggled, and for me that's just a fact of today. I'm not saying that he stopped playing because he's leaving. But yeah, a little bit disappointed. To be honest with you, my biggest concern is Sunday.
Saturday, isn't it?
No, Sunday.
Oh, is it Sunday?
Yeah. At least it's Sunday. Let me check immediately because you made me scared. Where is Serie A?
Italy.
Really?
Just trying to fill in the silence while you double check it.
We can start a jingle if you want.
Yeah. Intermission music.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
No, it is Saturday.
Oh, Saturday.
Saturday, 6:00. Well, yeah, so I thought. So, I mean, Juventus have also had a game today at least as well, but they haven't had 120 minutes and as well as extra time. I mean, the only thing about that is it's not ideal, but we are at least at home for that game, and we were at home tonight, so there's no travel involved.
Yeah.
And we are at least playing a team in Juventus who also have European commitments as well, even if they haven't played as many European matches as us. They do also have a second leg against Spurs to think about. So it's not ideal being in this situation, but I think Juventus will have a comeback to that by saying that they're in a very similar situation themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think let's talk about the match of tonight, and then later talk about the coming matches. Otherwise, we create too much confusion, I believe. Christian Ronaldo said, "Why Ramos? Why?" I think he thought he could make the penalty. I was surprised, and I want to hear what you think about that. When Cáceres got injured, and little parenthesis, again another injury for Cáceres, who already is not playing that much, and I don't know how many matches did he start for us, 3, 4, and already in 2 he had to get sub because of an injury. But going back to Ramos, I was surprised that he entered and not, for example, Wallace or Bastos. Do I have to read something into it, or or not?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we talked about this last time I was on, which was when Felipe Luis had been brought on as a right-sided, or no, it was on that occasion it was a left-sided centre-back. And basically because his form has been more impressive than Wallace and Bastos, Inzaghi seems to be wanting to try and get him into the team, but more than just as the central defender of the three, which is clearly De Vrij's position. So I was not too surprised to see him come on, given that we've seen it happen once before at least. And I think also at that stage in the match, he might have just wanted guarantees. And one thing you don't get with Wallace and Bastos, as we've discussed in length this season, is any guarantees, because they're going to make mistakes. And it says a lot for Felipe Luis in terms of the trust that Inzaghi has in him, that a guy as young as him and as inexperienced as him is being chosen to come on in a match of that scale, ahead of those guys. Was it the right decision? I think it probably was. I think he was fine on the pitch.
I thought he played well.
Yeah, so I don't think you can criticise him because he's missed a penalty, because like I said at the start, he wasn't supposed to be in that position to begin with. And if you think about who else was on the pitch, Radu, De Vrij, Lukaku, Strakosha, those are the guys you've got left who are alternatives to take the penalty. And you would have thought, maybe with the exception of De Vrij, that he's probably technically one of the better guys to stand up and strike the ball. So it's a shame that he's missed the penalty, but I'm not totally surprised or disappointed that he's been chosen to come on.
No.
The Cáceres situation, though, you're right, that is a problem. And do you think that's just because he's played so little football before this season? I mean, obviously half a season with Verona, but before then, not an awful lot. So maybe he's just still struggling with his body getting used to the kind of rigours of it.
No, I don't think so. Even because with Verona, I don't remember coming out for injury. The problem with Cáceres, and this was one of the concerns, is that he has a background of recurring injuries. So the thing that surprised me a little bit is that he ran out of the pitch. So probably the injury wasn't that bad. It's disappointing. It's disappointing because finally he plays, and he was playing quite fine, honestly. He was playing well, but again, another injury. And the biggest problem with that is you lose a substitution. Maybe you could give a rest to Ciro or someone else, or Milinkovic, etc. Instead,
Basta was about to come on, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was stripped off, ready to come on for Marisic, and then he had to come back on the bench again.
Yeah. So it's costly to spend a sub because someone get injured like that. So I don't know. Probably this is one of the reasons why Inzaghi doesn't play him that much.
Yeah, it's possible. Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, he's obviously a player that needs to be rotated well, and even if he hasn't had those problems with Verona, I suppose at Verona he wasn't having games every 3 days. So certainly, at least if he's going to be playing regularly for Lazio, it won't be in every competition. But it is a concern. But at the same time, we do have the 3 guys we've already mentioned tonight, in Felipe Luis, Wallace and Bastos. There's enough cover in that position. We can argue about how good that cover is, but there is at least enough there to kind of make do without him if he does have a problem.
Yeah. Sale Zeman, why did Inzaghi start Luis Alberto? Anderson is much better shape. Don't know. I thought Luis Alberto started well. You were saying that Felipe Anderson didn't convince you when he came in. So, I don't know. What's your thought? Well,
Anderson's obviously been in good form recently. So I suppose on form, there was definitely an argument to start him tonight. What I was intrigued before the game to see was if Inzaghi was going to be tempted to go with Alberto in the midfield and, Anderson and Immobile up top again, which has been quite an interesting thing to behold in the past, but is obviously a very attack-minded team. He put it out against Steaua last week, but obviously that's a weaker opposition. I think this is a constant problem for Inzaghi, really, is the Alberto versus Anderson debate, and it's only going to get harder for him because both of them, form-wise, are quite similar in that they're both quite inconsistent at the moment. They're both capable of winning matches by themselves, but they're also both capable of going missing and being invisible in games. And I think Alberto, you're right. I think he did start the game well tonight and drifted out to it. And in terms of my opinion about Anderson's performance, I think I just expected a bit more from him because he's done well in that kind of free role he's had recently where he's drifting all around the pitch. But tonight, against a tiring defence, I think he could have done better in terms of finding spaces and being a bit more direct and, getting in behind the defence and taking them for a run. And I don't know, I wanted him to be the difference maker, and it didn't really happen for me.
Were you surprised by the starting 11? I was hoping or thinking there could be some more substitution. For example, I wasn't expecting Immobile to start. I was looking more maybe Nani or something like that. Maybe Murja to have space. Let's not forget that, Coppa Italia is important, but for me, I don't know what you think, the fourth place that gives you the Champions League spot is much more important. Am I wrong?
It's a hard one. The thing we know about Inzaghi by now is that he's a winner and he will never choose to, or at least admit to choosing to rotating to put out a weaker team for these kind of games. I think once it gets to the second leg of a semi-final in a cup, you don't really have any excuse for choosing a weaker team. That's a game where you have to have your strongest team out there, in my opinion. Coppa Italia is a tournament we've had great success in recent years, and I think I'm very disappointed tonight because it's a tournament I would have loved to have another crack at Juventus in the final in tonight this year, given that we've done so well against them this season already. So no, I wasn't surprised to see him put out his full strength, what I regard as his full strength team rather than his Europa League team. To answer your question, I kind of expected it.
Okay. Christopher Thomas, game of half. Lazio sort of bossed the first, Milan the second. This seems to be a recurring scenario. Some has happened in the game previously. Don't think the lineup has any fault at all, although the subs were questionable. I don't think Milan played better in the second half. I thought Lazio dominated the first half, but in the second, still Lazio, at least the ball possession was on our side. Milan maybe had a bigger chance, the one with Kalinic, etc. But I thought, again, Lazio played better. One other thing I could say is that Immobile, Miljkovic, Savic dropped a lot in the second half. They weren't playing as before. And that probably why Lazio wasn't so dangerous anymore. But I don't think that Milan played better in the second half. Milan defended really well. I thought they were well organized, but they did only counter-attack. There were only long kicks from the defense, and that's it. So I thought Lazio overall played better in both halves.
Well, I think Lazio controlled the game. If you look at I just found the stats from tonight's match, and we've had 21 shots to their 12. But then in terms of shots that have actually ended up on target, it's only 6-5 in Lazio's favour. So I think, I don't know, I find it hard to criticise Milan's performance tonight necessarily because they, like you say, they were very well organised, but they did counter-attack well. It wasn't kind of hopeful long balls. They ended up with 4-on-2, 4-on-3 situations a few times, and just failed to make the most of them. And sometimes it was good scrambled defending from the likes of Radu, and then on right at the end when Kalinic, I mean, he's missed. That's their chance to win the game right there with Kalinic, and he's messed it up, thankfully. But they did counter attack well. But yeah, I mean, Lazio perhaps were, I don't know. I mean, this has been a something Lazio have struggled with against smaller teams in the league is how to work your way through a well-organised defence. And it's all well and good racking up 21 shots in a match, but how many of those are quality opportunities? Tonight, not an awful lot.
Yeah, I don't remember Donnarumma making incredible saves today.
No.
I think 2 good ones, but apart from that, nothing special. While I remember Strakosha making, another couple of nice saves. So Lazio had more ball possession, maybe deserved to win it, but Milan had biggest chances. So and this bring me back to is it Lazio less dangerous? Probably when Luis Alberto and Milinkovic-Savic doesn't play at the top level. Yes, I think that's the secret. That's the reason why. And when those two don't play well, you have to have wingers performing really well. And again, as I said before, Marusic was terrible for me today. So probably that's a reason why Milan defended so well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Gattuso's done his homework, and he knew to pay close attention to those guys. And I mean, there were a hell of a lot of, I don't have these statistics on me right now, but the amount of fouls in this game was insane. It was absolutely crazy. It was a very frustrating game to watch.
Yeah.
In terms of the way that Rocky refereed it.
Oh.
But I mean, for both sides, it was frustrating. But
absolutely.
I think that certainly the way that Alberto, Milinkovic-Savic, and Immobile, they were very tightly watched, and they were, kind of taken down when they needed to be. And then towards the end, I think Gattuso recognised that Lukaku's power was going to be a problem for him, and so he took off, I think it was Suso for Barini, and just basically told Barini to follow Lukaku around and knock him over. So, I mean, he's, it's an easy kind of style of football to criticise, but you can't say it's not effective, and that's Lazio's problem, I think, is that when we come up against that kind of resistance, you need a kind of X factor. You need something or someone who's just going to provide you something else, some creative spark, some moment of genius, and quite often this season that's not really happened.
Well, usually that's something that Milinkovic or Luis Alberto was bringing to the table, and today they didn't. So I believe that's the reason why Lazio struggled so much. And again, probably in a match like that, you need a strong striker, someone good with a header to use all that crosses, all that long ball you put in the box. And obviously, Ciro Immobile is not that type of player. Milinkovic-Savic was doing a little bit of that, but as I said before, Kessie blocked him very well, and he didn't play that well overall. So I think that's the reason why Lazio didn't perform well. And I hope this transfer market, this summer transfer market, Tare will try to resolve this issue.
Can I just say, at the very start of this, I was wondering, I thought it felt quite unfamiliar to me that losing on penalties, and I was wondering when we'd last done that. I've just seen Lazio page have said that it's been over 30 years since the last time Lazio lost on penalties, which was in 1987 against Juventus. So, yeah, that kind of explains it. I wasn't even born the last time this happened, so I was wondering why I was feeling a bit miserable.
Yeah, and I don't remember a team losing in penalties after the keeper saved 2 of those penalties.
The first two, yeah, it's crazy.
So usually you lose because your keeper saves only one. Instead, two. It's a lot. Paul McGuinness, Milinkovic and Lucas' penalties were both awful. Lucas had a great game, but his penalty really was poor. Milinkovic, very good young player, but price being mentioned are crazy. As I said before, Lucas had, for me, was man of the match. I really believe that. Milinkovic-Savic, we said it. Yeah, I was disappointed much more from the Milinkovic-Savic penalty than the Lucas Leiva. I thought Leiva could miss that penalty, while Milinkovic-Savic, his penalty was terrible. I don't know if he was too tired to kick it as hard as expected or that bad, but his penalty was terrible. Talking about the money, I still believe Milinkovic deserves all that type of money. He's turned 23 yesterday, so he still can improve a lot. I really believe that Lazio must sell him for a very high price.
Well, the thing is as well, the Neymar transfer has kind of blown the proportions completely wide open into an entirely new level. I mean, what we kind of consider as being value in the transfer market has completely changed at that top level now. So we can kind of thank PSG for that to a certain extent, because, Milinkovic-Savic, maybe last summer you would call him a 30, 40 million pound player. But now this summer, Lazio definitely have the right to ask closer to 90 for him, because that's where the market's gone. Things have spiraled out of control. And 23 years old, scoring and performing in a top league and in Europe. If he has a good World Cup with Serbia on top of that, then add a few more million on top of his value. So, I mean, I'm not wanting him, obviously, to leave by any means, but you have to say, if an offer in that region comes in, it's going to be very hard for the club to turn down. The question then would be how they reinvest it, or if they reinvest it, because that's always my concern with Lazio is I'm never happy to say, I would take this sum of money for this player, because I never really see it going back into the squad.
I think we'll have to do an episode on Milinkovic sale and discuss about it. But you're right. I honestly, I hope he stays another year, because I still see him improving. I still believe he can improve a lot and give Lazio something more. But if we have to sell him, then I think, what was it, 130, 120 could be the right price for him. But then again, you have to use that money wisely. We saw this summer we spent something like 25 million euros on two youngsters that still didn't play a minute with Lazio. So maybe they're going to prove to be really, really good. But if we sell Milinkovic, we need someone who's ready to play from the beginning of the season and play really well.
Yeah, and we don't really have, with Stefan de Vrij, we've at least said in the last couple of weeks, in Felipe Luis, he's not someone who's naturally going to step up and give you the same level of consistency and quality, but we do at least have somebody in the squad already who's kind of capable of filling that position. But I don't think we have anyone in the squad who can provide the same service that Milinkovic-Savic has done, simply because he's such an unusual player. He can score, he can hold the ball up, he's physical, he's fast, he's technical, he's got everything to his game. We don't have anyone else in the squad who can replace it.
Well, I believe a lot of teams in Serie A wouldn't have a replacement for Milinkovic-Savic. But we said it. While Ramos is a player who is ready to play, and he showed it again today, Murgia, for example, is not a player like Milinkovic-Savic. He's different. So you have to invest money to get a player like that. So it's not going to be easy, but you even have to say that Tares has been very good to find this gem hidden in maybe minor league like the Belgium league. So we're gonna see. Kilkito absolutely got it. We played well, just the final pass let us down. We were unlucky, but have to get over it quickly as we have Juventus in 3 days, which I will be at the weather permitting. Oh, good, Kilkito. So you're going to the Olimpico to watch Lazio. Very good. Yeah, I agree. This is my biggest concern. And we said it. The final pass missed today, and there's Juve in 3 days. And it could... I was thinking it could be really key, you know, if you... I know it's going to be really hard, but if you beat Juventus, you could be 5 points ahead of everybody, because I don't see Napoli losing against Roma at home. And Milan looks much better than Inter at the moment. So if you can beat Juventus, I'm not saying it's easy, but if you beat Juventus and the other two team loses, then everything changes for the chase for the Champions League spot. So
yeah, I mean, what a weekend of fixtures.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Obviously in the title race, but also in the Champions League race. So I think Juventus, this is going to be regarded by them as one of their biggest games of the season so far, I think.
absolutely.
Because not only because of the fact that they'll see Napoli as being in a position to potentially drop points, but also because they've got their Champions League second leg coming up against Spurs as well. And they're away to a team that's beaten them already twice this season. So that's going to be a very, very difficult and well-prepared, organised Juventus team that we see in Rome on Saturday. Now, there's no reason why it won't be a very well-prepared and organised Lazio team as well. But I think after the result in Turin, they're perhaps not going to be as complacent in the way that they approach this. I hope they are. But yeah, I mean, it's a hard one to call. I think that Lazio might have to adapt their game a little bit instead of just going out and approaching it in exactly the same way as we did in Turin or in the Super Coppa.
Yes, and I think, again, there's going to be plenty of turnover, I think, after this match. So we're going to see who will be able to play on Saturday after this long match, and which type of decision Inzaghi will make for this match. Obviously, when you're playing a team like Juventus, you have to adapt to that team. You just can't think that you can play your match and overcome a team that is better than you. So it's going to be important the next days to see who will be able to recover. Moses Halabib on Spreaker, the team did everything today except scoring a goal. I don't know why Ramos shot the penalty. He's only 20 years old. He can't bear the pressure of this game in this time. I was surprised why Radu didn't took the penalty. Well, even De Vrij didn't took the penalty. Leva was a star today. In 120 minutes, he did everything he could. Yeah, I agree. Leva was amazing. And I think everybody said it today, that the only thing missing today was the shoot on target. That's what Lazio missed today and why they didn't win.
Yeah, I agree. I think Lucas as well was the best player on the pitch for us. And yeah, with the penalty call, it's probably just... I would probably put De Vrij in front of Felipe if it was up to me, but I'd also probably put Felipe in front of Radu in terms of taking a penalty. So, but it's always a bit of a lottery when it gets to sudden death and you're using your defenders to take the penalties. Then you don't really know how much difference it's going to make one or another doing it. And I understand the inexperience argument, but he is a confident young guy, and it's a shame for him. But yeah, I don't think anyone's going to judge him too harshly on it, hopefully, and I'm sure he'll come back stronger.
No, I was surprised that De Vrij didn't kick it before him. So, to be honest, and for example, I thought it was Biglia was kicking the penalty instead of Romagnoli. Instead, he didn't kick it. So that's another surprise. Maybe he felt he couldn't do it.
Yeah, that was a surprise. I suppose there's the added backdrop of actually taking a penalty in front of the Curva North, where he's not the most popular character. So that's another element, I suppose, which he may feel, and it might say a lot about his character as well, that he felt that he wasn't willing to actually stand up to that challenge, which is the kind of thing that a lot of players would really embrace, being able to silence a crowd that hate you. But clearly not Biglia, who, as we know, is someone who's, very good from the penalty spot, can be anyway, and good from set pieces. So, yeah, it was a surprise. Bonucci and Romagnoli, both of the centre-backs stepping up before him.
Yeah, Bonucci kicks penalty even for the national team, so I wasn't surprised. And it was nice, let's put it like that Romagnoli didn't celebrate after eliminating his team. So. But anyway, talking about Saturday, do you believe there's going to be a turnover? Do you think it's time for Nani to play?
I don't expect an awful lot of change, no. I mean, obviously it depends what comes out in terms of injuries or fatigue from tonight, because we weren't expecting to have the extra exertions of extra time and penalties. I think it's an interesting one to call. I think how the defence lines up is going to be very interesting. I wouldn't expect Cáceres to play now that he's come off injured. And so if that leaves De Vrij and Radu, then you're talking about who you're putting on the right-hand side again, and that's a never-ending debate, isn't it? So the one thing that we do know is going to change at least is that Maricic isn't going to be there, so Dusan Basta will be in at right wing back. So in my mind, I would have quite liked to see Basta play in that game anyway, because I think he's a bit more defensively capable than Maricic. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see Felipe Luis start that game, because at least you've got two guys either side of him, and Basta De Vrij, who have a lot of experience. But judging by what's happened so far, I don't know if you agree, but the kind of form suggests that Inzaghi will go for Wallace again, because that seems to be the guy he's relying on the most at the moment.
Yeah, he's the one playing in Serie A most of the match recently. But Bastos was the player who usually performed well against Juventus, so I don't know if this come in mind of Simone Inzaghi. And I wouldn't be surprised if Felipe Luis play instead of De Vrij Saturday, even though I still believe De Vrij, if he's fit, obviously, should start in match so important. I think the biggest question is Milinkovic-Savic, Luis Alberto, and Ciro Immobile. Are they going to start Saturday? Or Immobile was tired. Maybe Luis Alberto can start because he came out early. But
I think if they're fit, they're going to start. I think the only doubt would be Alberto, because in Anderson, he's the only one, the genuine competitor for his place. And this isn't a game that Inzaghi's going to want to rotate for. We need our strongest players on the pitch. So I think there's no doubt that Ciro's going to start if he recovers. I don't think there's any doubt Milinkovic-Savic will either. But Alberto perhaps is the one that you might question. But then again, Alberto is the only one of the three who actually came off tonight, so he hasn't played as long, so he should be okay. To be honest, I wouldn't expect too much change. I think apart from Basta coming in and the right centre back changing, I think it might be more or less the same team.
Okay. I was thinking, knowing how things went in the last 2 months or so, that there could be a bigger rotation. Nani maybe could start. Maybe because I'm wishing to see Nani starting from the beginning. But I don't know.
It would be a bit of a wild card move from Inzaghi to throw Nani in from the start for a game like this, given that he's hardly ever given Nani any chances from the start. To put him in against Juventus would be quite it would be a move they're not expecting. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it would be a good move because they won't be expecting it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced.
And maybe you can give a little bit of rest to Ciro, and he still can come in the second half. And the problem is, how is Nani? If he's back to his normal level or he's performing so and so, because he has the experience to play this type of matches. Let's be honest. But against Juventus, you have to play well. It's not enough playing 60% of your level. So that's the biggest question. And only Inzaghi knows it because only he see them playing.
Yeah, and that's what makes me wonder. The fact that he's not really gone to Nani when he's been given the opportunity this season makes me wonder what doubts he does have about him. Because he's clearly not convinced if he's not using him from the start, and he's also often overlooking him from the bench as well. So, but you're right. I mean, when it comes to these big games where it does take big characters, experience does help. I would be very surprised to see him from the start, but perhaps from the bench he could play a part.
Yeah, let's not forget that. When we played that away, he came in what was it, 25 minutes missing till the end of the match, and Juve was attacking, etc. So Inzaghi has that mindset to put them in if he thinks they are performing well. So if they can bring something to the team, and especially if Ciro and Luis Alberto are tired. So I think the next days will be really important to see who will be able to recover. I believe Cáceres will be out. And again, I don't know if Milinkovic-Savic will play. Maybe he was a little bit tired or fatigue.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has to start. He has to start if he's fit. And perhaps what we might see is these guys getting only 55, 60 minutes before having to come off. But, they're professional athletes. They should be able to recover. Obviously they've played an extra half hour from what they'd like tonight, but it's not the end of the world. I think Immobile, you made a good point on Sunday's show about Immobile, which was that he's not just he's not a 18-yard box striker. He's not like Mauro Icardi and he just waits for his chances. Immobile's style is to be sprinting everywhere for the whole time he's on the pitch. So that makes him a bit different in terms of how much you worry or have concerns about how tired he might get. But you can't stop him playing like that. Whereas Milinkovic-Savic doesn't play in that same way. I think he's got a more kind of gentle, slow pace to his game. So perhaps that will make him be able to recover quicker. But
and he's
we need
younger.
Ciro. I think, if we're going to beat Juventus, we need Ciro. And we need Sergei. We need both of them.
Yeah, and we need it at the maximum, not as they play today. At least not all the match. So that's the biggest question. Will they be able to play well Saturday? They have just 2 days for recover, pretty much. So it's not going to be easy. We didn't mention Mauricio. He went on loan to Legia.
Hey!
Disappointed?
Well, no, I mean, it's just a bit of a relief to get rid of one of these guys who's clearly not in the squad and doesn't have a role to play. So I mean, we've said this before, but you know, when it comes to Marchetti and Djordjevic and Mauricio, there's three guys who just aren't going to feature for Lazio this season for one reason or another, and there's no point in them staying at the club. I think we've talked about Marchetti before and the fact that we'd like to see him feature at the club, but it doesn't look like he will.
No.
But when it comes to Djordjevic and Mauricio, then there's no point. You know, they're not in the squad list. They're not registered players. So I mean, you know, good on Mauricio. I think there's a decent player in there somewhere with Mauricio. He obviously makes too much. He makes too many mistakes, but he has played some good games and he can be a decent player. And it sounds like he had a decent spell with Spartak last season when they won the title. So I think he does deserve to be with a club playing football. So it just seems like a waste to have someone who's not a complete disaster actually going out and finding a club. So I wish him the best of luck.
Yeah, and he's on loan only. I believe we have been, or fans have been too harsh with him. He wasn't that bad defender, but we never forgive him for a couple of mistakes he made. So, but yeah, the problem is we still have Djordjevic. I think his contract is expiring this summer, like Marchetti. It looks like I didn't follow up, but I think Tunkarai is injured. He came back for Mello to recover his injury. So just as he's left, he's already back. So yeah, at least we get rid of one, even though he's coming back in June because he's on loan.
Well, yeah. So I mean, you'd hope that at least this summer they'd be able to find a permanent move. But you know, it will be a lot easier to find a permanent move for a player who's actually gone and had games than for someone who's been training by themselves or training with the reserves the whole season.
Yeah, the strange thing is Mauricio won the trophy in Russia, and he was the starting defender. It's simply amazing he didn't find any club that wanted him.
Well, I think he was surprised after that Spartak didn't try and sign him permanently. I think he expected.
Yeah.
I remember seeing interviews at the time that saying that he expected that they would make the move permanent because I think they had the option in the loan deal, but they decided not to. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that was a surprise because, like you say, if he's helped them win the league, then you'd expect that they might want to take him because he's not going to cost a lot of money to take off Lazio. No. But I think people basically accept any price for these guys at this point.
Yeah. So it's disappointed, and Marchetti is going to leave this June, obviously, because I don't think Lazio will try to resign him after what happened this season. So I think it's the end of the story between Marchetti and Lazio, which is a little bit sad how things are finishing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it definitely is. And I hope he gets a club as well because he's not finished by any means. He's obviously, as a goalkeeper, he's going to have a lot longer career span than some other players. So I hope that he finds somewhere to take him on too. But again, it seems like such a waste of talent to have someone like that who's just, training by himself. Posting pictures on his Twitter account playing in the snow. I just think, it just doesn't. It seems like a shame for him to be there and not being used.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, I think we can wrap it up here. I don't know if you have something else to add. We're going to focus on Juventus and see what happened in the next days and come back with you after the Juventus match, another tough match. It's a very hard week for Lazio, but it could be a really important week for the team. Lazio failed the first appointment of the season, the Coppa Italia, so that's over, but we still have the Champions League spot and the Europe League. So plenty of things still on hand for Lazio, and Saturday is going to be a very hard match, but we hope to see a nice performance, a good performance.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's anything like the games we've had against them so far this season, then we're in for a treat. So let's hope for history repeating itself.
Yeah, and at least I want to see the team fighting, what didn't happen very often in the past against Juventus. Instead, this season we saw Lazio really competing and fighting against Juventus, which is good. And then you can lose against a better team, but if they give everything on the pitch, then you're happy, you're satisfied.
Yeah, and there's also, there are a lot of games coming up at the moment in the Europa League. Suddenly it's back again already next week. It seems a bit strange that we've just got through and then we've got another game again. But it's good that we've got this run of home games. 3 home games in a row is quite unusual. So 3 home games in a row in 3 different competitions. But hopefully, with the backing of the home fans, we can make it a week to remember and actually help progress in both of those races.
Yeah, and it's cool that you don't have to fly around Europe in a week, but stay home and take it a little bit easier, which helped the team in a very long and very long season where you played so many matches. I think we can close it here. Alasdair, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you're going to be here even next Saturday. And to everybody, remember to subscribe to our iTunes channel, YouTube, Spreaker, and follow us on our social account on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you very much, Alasdair.
Thank you, and see you on Saturday.
Bye, everybody.